Let's get into the second part of it, which is basically deep diving into what inspiration was poured into making this Remarkable 2. Clearly, the Remarkable 1 was a benchmark for the Remarkable 2. For those of you who have the Remarkable 1, please comment below just to say what you like about the Remarkable 1 or what you don't, and how does the Remarkable 2 compare. I want to give you guys a quote from actually a person within Remarkable, and he says, now listen to this, "I love products that have surprises in them, things you experience over time, not the first time you meet the product." Now I think that's a really interesting line, because I'll bring it back to my experience. The first time I got my MZR50, I just thought this honestly is a thing of beauty. And functionally, it's a piece of engineering that hits the spot. I suddenly thought, when I got the Remarkable myself, I thought, and when I saw that video, I thought, this is just like this. It's going to be super fantastic. It's going to deliver at every level. Given my expectation, and again, not knowing about the Remarkable 1, I thought, well, the Remarkable 2 must be the second generation of the Remarkable 1. Likewise, my MZR50, which is 33% smaller than the original MZ, I'm not sure which it is. The first version was much more chunkier, as was the Remarkable 1. Now, I never had the first version of this, but my point being is that I really had no expectations. So my expectations were the Remarkable in itself, the Remarkable 2, would be far superior. And that, for me, that was great. Got the video here as I walk through I suppose the history or the blog that I came across, is that I always find myself wanting more from the Remarkable 2, and so I go, oh, what else can I find from the internet? So here's a little tidbit. The CEO, the founder, was Magnus Vanberg, and he started the product development in Oslo back in 2014. So it's what, now 7 years? And I pretty much know that from startups, 50% of them, or 55% I think, of them fail within the first couple of years. In this video, I will show you the reasons potentially why it's such a pricey object of desire. And like this, you know, I keep coming back to my Sony my Sony Mini disc, is because these metallic shiny things aren't cheap, and they're designed because the components within them are high quality. Now, we know that the Remarkable 2 is an e-ink tablet, and it's for reading documents and textbooks, sketching and note-taking, with the goal of being paper-like with experience. The device is geared towards students, academics and professionals. There is a lot wanting from the Remarkable 1 community, and they want to see a big bang for their buck and value if they do decide to move to Remarkable 2. So let's skip ahead, and we're now present day. We've got the Remarkable 2. I've got it in my hands.
Paper is an exceptional tool for thinking.
So in there you heard that paper is an exceptional tool for thinking. If I wanted to know more about what was the concept and the idea behind that exceptional tool for thinking, it all stems back from Magnus Vanberg, as it should do. And he goes, paper is the best invention so far for better thinking. And it's so simple, easy to use, and forces you to focus. But those things aren't necessarily linked to the material. They're more about the method. Now, there's a lot to decompose in that, but actually what I picked out is that, yeah, absolutely, paper is simple, but that's what makes it so unique. And I think this is where the Remarkable, and possibly Remarkable 2, has come a cropper, and I'll get more into that. But anyway, let's keep going with Mr. Vanberg's statements. And he goes, at Remarkable, we're emulating paper, but we're not trying to emulate its physical aspects necessarily. It's more the qualities of it that make it good for thinking. And again there, I agree with that, because you're never going to recreate paper on a digital surface, because paper's paper, it's made from trees, it has a certain coefficient of friction going across the paper, and it's just paper, right? It's not digital, it has no batteries. So having said that, I think the qualities that the Remarkable 2 conveys is exceptional. let's have a look at the next one. He says, we belong in people. So when he says we, Remarkable 2 belongs in people's bags, and we're replacing the notebooks and documents and books that you have there. And we're very respectful that your bags has finite space. That makes sense too. I think what he's trying to achieve with this is that he's trying to make it as thin as possible. But for now, let's keep going about regarding the fact that paper is an exceptional tool for thinking. So I think the CEO, Mr. Van Berg, has actually covered good statements there. And I think that lady there, as we can see, who's just clearly thinking, is in the zone. And I think they've hit the spot with this Remarkable 2 so far. It says, if people bring Remarkable 2 with them, then we stay in their workflows and we can help them to think. Genius. Anyway.
It lets your mind roam freely without restrictions. It lets you focus without distractions. But what if paper were given digital powers?
Yes, what if paper were given digital powers? It lets your mind roam freely. And what Mr. Weinberg says, he goes, to be able to focus and concentrate and create, you need to be mentally present. They try to protect your focus and concentration. And I think, for me, they've done a pretty good job of that. And actually, I started to think, some of my original videos have been the fact that I've tried to integrate it within my workflow, in my existing workflow, for example, OneNote, and that actually potentially could create lack of focus. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe this is meant to be a disconnected device. Okay? And again, the next point it makes in the video is without restrictions, it lets you focus without distractions. One of the things that I immediately picked out from reading the blog was that paper is so simple and it doesn't distract, so it's perfect for thinking. And that simplicity needs to be balanced with modern functionality to unlock paper's full potential as a tool in today's workflow. The Remarkable 2 it's linking that modern functionality, it's making it digital, which I think is an extremely difficult feat to do. For years, that people who were using notebooks just use a pencil or pen, their mind, just write it down, and there is no link to any digital index, no search. It's devoid of any electricity. So I think it was a bit of a dangerous gamble, almost to say better paper, better thinking. We all know the phrase that if it's good, then it's, I suppose, above average, because nothing's better than paper. Anyway, I'll leave that there with the trusty old mini disc. There's 4 guys that you specifically need to be aware of in this in the blog posts. And the first one is Mr. Van Berg, who is the CEO and founder of The Remarkable. And there's Mr. Bart Carson, who is the VP, the Vice President of User Experience. There's Mr. Rasmussen, who is the VP of Visual Design. And then finally, you'll hear me talking about Mr. Herding, who's the Chief Design Officer, who's responsible for the beautiful aesthetics and the thinness of the device. Mr. Bart Carson goes on to say, the Remarkable doesn't distract you, and in that sense, it's a unique tech device, which it is. So we need to develop our own paradigm where it comes to our user experience. And when I read this, it suddenly goes, oh yeah, okay, now I'm not so bothered about all the nuances or problems that I have found through the Remarkable 2, because going back to, I suppose, the Remarkable 2's creators, and it does make sense because technology instantly provides benefits, but also it does clutter that, it brings chances of distraction to come about readily. So he's quite right when he says the paradigm comes to the user experience, because it must ensure that that user experience brings, I suppose, that high expectations of that paperless digital functionality, but bringing back that analog nature of writing. And then again, Carson goes on to say, we're always trying to look out at our user interface with new eyes. Think about how we can focus more on the user content and how we can streamline the design rather than expand. And I can see the temptation that they were facing, because as much as I don't want to look at the Remarkable One, looking at the design, of course it's version 1, it goes through iterations, and the user interface, it's interesting because it's a lot cleaner, I would say, and from the screenshots of the Remarkable One and the videos that I've seen, the Remarkable 2 is a lot more finished, I would say, in terms of both its design, obviously, the physical design, but also the user interface. So some people might wonder why Remarkable paper tablets don't have email, a video player, or a browser, and the answer is the team has been very clear with the vision, and some things just don't fit. And I think that's something important to raise here, because it's okay for you to come along and just view the Remarkable 2 as, yeah, it doesn't do this. I've seen a lot of comments and posts saying you can just buy an iPad, but yeah, the iPad and the Remarkable 2 are two different propositions, and the use cases, in other words, the user experience that they're trying to achieve, are very different. So it's almost comparing apples and pears, okay? In other words, they purposely haven't expanded the functionality, because ultimately in here, in this, blimey, I can believe it's 4.7 millimeters, is a Linux PC, right? It's obviously customized for the e-ink display, but it is a full-blown PC. You could probably program, develop. I think because of the e-ink technology, it's not going to be readily easy to use video on it because of the screen technology. It holds. So Rasmussen, the visual design VP, has said it's tempting to constantly add new features, but the interesting question is, how do those things fit into the Remarkable experience? I think these characters, they're obviously really good at what they do, and I think it's very hard to stick to the vision, especially when you've got people coming in with new comments from the Remarkable 1 and the Remarkable 2, and knowing that it can be so much greater. But I think they've done the right thing to pare it back, regardless of the influx of the requests. But you know, there's something coming, which I think you'll be satisfied to hear. Keep positive about these things, because at the end of the day, Bar Carson again goes to say, we want to keep the device a distraction-free zone where you can focus and do deep thinking. I can certainly agree with that. Going back to that part of the video where he goes, but what if paper were given digital powers? So I'm just going to read this sentence to you in relation to the statement that the video said about, but what if paper were given digital powers? Now I picked this sentence out from the blog because I thought it fit this line perfectly in the video, and it goes like this. If you took a plain white sheet of paper and held it by one of the long sides, then dipped it slowly, carefully, just a centimetre or so into a bubbling vat of liquid technology, you might end up with a Remarkable 2. Now I just thought, regardless of whether that video, the marketing video, was made after or before, I just thought that sentence of that blog post captured that line quite succinctly. And it's nice to know because, again, the Remarkable, its name in itself defines what I think they've achieved in the Remarkable 2 specifically. So well done, chaps. Keep the work up.
Introducing the next generation paper tablet. It's like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. Yep, I'll say it again. It's like nothing I've never seen before. I think with this, the design, the physical attributes, the design of this device. Okay, so I just took the pen off and we'll talk about that later. But I'm going to go and refer to, I suppose it's the guy behind the scenes. It's Mr. Herding, and here you go. Here's a few things he had to say about it. With the Remarkable 2, we wanted to make it an object of desire. And that's not really related to better thinking, is it? But that's just a nice to have. So with that, going back to Remarkable 1, I believe, if I understand it correctly, it was plastic, it was white, and I think it was 6.7 millimeters. But the point is, it doesn't look like an object of desire, does it? And again, as I refer to it, this is an aluminium it's got an aluminium spline and a paper feeding back. Similarly with this, it just feels like quality, right? And I like what he wrote there. He said it wasn't necessary, but hey, if you can make it look sexy, an object of desire, maybe I'm just ad-libbing here, but an object of desire, this is it. In some respects, if it just was a Remarkable 1 with the new interface, I don't think you'd really get the uptake. And later on it goes on to say that I think they really wanted to pull it out of the bag and step up and level up. They say that people have misunderstood the Remarkable 1. And for the reasons I think it's so much that more expensive, at least $100 US more expensive, that's why you pay the premium, because it is an object of desire. It's in the Time 100 list of new innovative gadgets for 2020, so I suppose if you haven't got one and you can afford it, get one, because it really is an object of desire. Again, I think because of the Chief Design Officer's outlook of it and keeping the vision in mind, it goes on to say, the Remarkable 2 hardware design threw up some interesting questions. Coming from the Remarkable 1, which has buttons, the crew had to change their mindset and focus on designing on all gesture interface for the Remarkable 2. And I think that for the most part they've got it right. If you want to know more about the DDVK hack, which actually improves the gesture functionality and adds more functionality to the current version of the software, then check out my video here.
Meet Remarkable 2. A revolutionary new way to take notes, read, and review documents with a paper feel never experienced before on a digital device. Now even faster, thinner, smarter.
Right. For me, this, I won't lie, I'm a bit of a hardware geek, and I like things that are made really well. And so I have a lot of respect for the Chief Design Officer, Matt Herding. And I'm going to I'll read you some of these things that he was thinking about during the making of the Remarkable 2. So he would keep a spreadsheet and document the thinness of every component slated for the device, okay, in millimeters, down to 4 decimal places. Now, how accurate is that? And quite frankly, he said he's obsessed with thinness, which I think, can you, that is it, he's achieved his goal. And as an example, he says just for a flex cable, he had to know if it would be 0.6745 millimeters thin. Matt Herding, if you're out there, well done for keeping those accuracies, those 4 decimal places. The intention is, and I think the reason why they've made it so thin is for the fact that the thinner they could make the Remarkable 2, the more paper-like it would be. And I can see that analogy. I think they've achieved it. Whether it's more paper-like is a different matter. Now, this is the thing that you need to be listening to. If you're a real geek and you're really into the componentry, and if you've ever made a computer yourself, what Mr. Herding goes on to say, he says, we couldn't just stack a bunch of thin components on top of each other. They needed to rethink the shape, the placement, the material of each one. And what's interesting here, so there's hundreds of components to consider. It's not surprising actually that this device costs so much, because it's a bespoke custom design, and so the manufacturing of it'll be interesting and challenging, right? Anyway, I'm going to go and show you a bunch of images that you can have a look at, because I think it's quite indicative of how complicated and how well engineered this device is when they're putting all the components together to make it look as thin as it does. Well done, remarkable. The battery itself could be, it's actually 1.4 millimeters thick, which I think is insane, but it's a huge area. The battery, is under the screen, and that's what allows it to be powered to reach that for 2 weeks or 90 days in standby mode. Going back to the design, what makes this so special, this device, is that they underwent so much testing and understand the physics of writing it almost. It's like, here you go. So this time around, we wanted to go further, understand more about the physics involved when it comes to the writing experience. We spent 2 years on this. The complexity of that is just immense. It's just bottomless. Now, how do you describe a good writing experience? I mean, it's sort of subjective, isn't it? What words do you use that we can actually use as a reference, and how do we measure it objectively? When I'm designing software and working with testers, there's something called acceptance criteria. So what's interesting for me is, because I'm involved with software development, right? And designing software and user interfaces doesn't really have too much to do with the physical hardware, in the sense that you've got a pen interface, like. So I could imagine when you're saying to the tester, the acceptance criteria of a successful writing of the sentence is if it feels like paper and the sound sounds like paper. Yeah. So again, I think what this Mr. Herding has described there is very complicated, and what they managed to do is to understand the physics and the nature of the surface. They actually went a step further. They used microscopes and scanned the materials at a really high resolution to understand what the surfaces looked like. And not only was the micro level 2D scans, but they used 3D scans of all the surfaces that they tested, so they could understand the topography. And I'll leave a picture of an image that they scanned, and how it led to a certain feedback when you write. I think that is going above and beyond to create it. And actually, the other day I was in John Lewis looking at the iPad Pros, and I got the Apple Pencil, and we all know that the iPad Pros have a glass screen. And I thought, let me use the pencil, let me write with it. And I thought, yeah, this isn't bad. I'm writing a sentence. But what was clearly lacking was the nature of the paper, the friction, just that subtle friction added to the surface that I suppose mimicked paper, right? And again, going back to Mr. Van Beek, it's not about actually making it exactly like paper. So one of the pet peeves that Mr. Herding has always been products that weren't designed to fit with the accessories. So when he means accessories, he means like the pen and the folio cover. Okay, so what he goes on to say is, so when the time came, the team really focused on solving the Remarkable 2's accessories in a seamless and symbiotic way. And what he meant by that was quite interesting, is that what he's trying to say is, normally when things are designed, it's an afterthought of the accessories. Oh yeah, you just get a nice little sleeve and you just shove it on. But with this magnetic folio, I'll show you the picture up there, is that this actual fold was designed to be thin and fold underneath it, and I suppose be continuous and fluid. Isn't that great?
And with 2 weeks of battery life, state-of-the-art components carefully arranged, and encased in a precision-machined aluminium frame, enable an extremely compact assembly. Remarkable 2 is the world's thinnest tablet.
And there, my friends, is a unique selling point. 4.7 millimeters, and you just saw the expansion and the decomposition of that graphic, where it expanded all the bits and contracted into this thing. That, I believe, is why you are paying for $400 US. Not just that, I'm not just the hardware, of course. There's a lot gone into it.
Our unique paper-like display and an unmatched writing experience. Convert your handwriting into text. No more typing up your meeting notes.
When I saw that originally, I was like, what? This is unreal. It actually sends the handwriting to a server-side application called MyScript, which actually uses the handwriting recognition information about the data, the speed, the inflection, and the pen angle to better transcribe the text. And what's interesting is this application is from MyScript, the company. There is an actual application called Nebo as well that I've looked at, and it's an app that you can download on your Apple device or your iPad, and it's the same technology that it's using to recognize your handwriting. And I think there's a lot to be said about, I'm looking forward to this space, about being able to, for Remarkable to really leverage this technology, because the smarts in this MyScript handwriting recognition is top quality, because you can use it in formulae, you can use it to recognize shapes. It's almost like a hybrid between Microsoft Whiteboard. I'm not sure if you've used that, but look out for this stuff.
With a completely new display technology and a beautiful paper-thin design, Remarkable 2 is the most advanced paper tablet ever.
Well, what else do I have to say? Obviously, these team of top guys are actually assessing the Remarkable 2 during its development cycle, and obviously they've gone through so many iterations and testing. And what Rasmussen says is, we're so excited about the future. I think the Remarkable users have a lot to look forward to. And I think he's right. What I'm finding at the moment is I've got update 2.6 and I've added the DDVK hat. As a left-handed user, I think it's quite clear that it doesn't quite, but I think for the most part, what's keeping this device back is these extra functionalities like the DDVK bookmarks, the moving to a new page quickly, the gestures. But I think that will come in time. And I have no doubt that at some point with a major version update grade, like maybe jumping to 3.0, this could happen. So watch out for this space. But Carson goes on to say, we get so many ideas and feature requests from the Remarkable community. And this is back in 2020. And we have so many ourselves. It's going to be so interesting to see people's reactions as user experience continues to evolve. I can't wait. For a statement to be said like that, it's not just a marketing statement. A lot of testing goes on behind the scenes, and there's you have developers who program the code to interpret the user interface and the input from the marker, and it's a whole user journey that involves lots of people in the development of the software, the device, the hardware, and the marketing and everything. There's a whole value chain going on there. So it's not a simple case of just software development. Everything has to be tied together to the strategic direction of where Remarkable wants to take the Remarkable 2. Because what I find quite interesting is they're also considering keeping Remarkable 1 in sync, which is great. But at some point, perhaps there's going to be a deviation in which they want to take a product, maybe Remarkable 3, I don't know, into a completely different direction and not be held back by its predecessors. So I'm going to be interested in watching what their roadmap is. So Remarkable, hopefully you guys can give us a bit of an indication of what's to come shortly. So just to recap on that, on the ending, Remarkable, as we know, if you've got one, it came in the box. Better paper, better thinking. That's a huge bar that they've set themselves. Better paper, better thinking, okay? And I think they've taken the right position. You know, we think social media isn't good for better thinking. Neither is open access to web browsers or email. 100%, it just clogs the mind and you find yourself context switching, which is just stupid because you waste time. You know, you've all been there, you've looked at Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and time is like a black hole. And then they go on to say, we wanted to create this nice, purified, streamlined workflow around thinking, ink on paper and reading. So the long and short of it is I think they've gone on to achieve something, dare I say it, remarkable, because it is an object of desire, again, which they didn't have to do, but it just adds, it oozes that appeal. I think what's currently lacking is potentially the experience on the reading side of things. Now, I haven't gone into depth on that on my channel yet because that's something that I want to talk about in more detail. My general use, in terms of it being a note-taking tool and as paper a replacement, I've got there. Now, that being said, the caveat being I have put the DDVK hack on, and that's just a sign of things to come, right? I think once Remarkable have embellished or enhanced the user interface to cater for the needs of those users, no doubt this will become leading edge. And I really do hope that whatever difficulties they may be facing is that they will overcome them. Being in a startup mode, there are so many rounds of funding and you need to hit the objectives that the venture capitalists are asking for. They want their return on investment, okay? Remarkable have been in the game since, I suppose, 2014, so they must be doing something right. I just hope that the user fan base, people like myself, keep supporting them, stay positive. So in conclusion, I just want to come back. What was the concept and the ideas behind the Remarkable 2 and why is it like it is? And again, let's talk about the sentence. I love products that have surprises in them, things you experience over time, not the first time you meet the product. And this was the guy, Mr. Herding, the Chief Design Officer, and I 100% agree with that, because again, like my mini disc player, it never ceases to amaze me the ingenuity going into this. It's a designer's dream. And I think this is what Remarkable have done on the Remarkable 2. In terms of feel, aesthetics, and writing functionality, they've done it. I hope you enjoyed that video on the Remarkable and the reaction to the video and how I went into the detail about the conception being made and what it stands for. So if you've got any questions, I'll put it in the comments below. If you like this video, please click on my subscribe button and hit that notification symbol to get the latest updates for videos.